Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Talking with T. I'm your host, Chris Tatarian, and today is a great day for a podcast episode because I have with us the greatest fighting game player in American history, Mr. Justin Wong. Welcome to the show, Justin. I'm very happy to have you on this.
Oh no, thank you for having me, man. Giving me such big praise as well too. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I see in your podcast Reinhardt, and yeah, I love the questions you asked him. And Reinhardt's such a he's so good at like his perspective, right? So yeah, I'm really curious on what kind of things you're gonna throw at me today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole point of this podcast again was to, speak to the professional players, the players who have been in this for a very long time, ones that can articulate their thoughts on fighting games and their experiences within the FGC. And, I wouldn't have an experience within the FGC if it wasn't for you. So to give a little bit of a background, I I'm sure many people have told you this before, but my first taste of competitive Street Fighter was actually watching Evo Moment 37.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
that's a
was like,
classic.
man,
Yeah,
this is the craziest, coolest thing. And in that time, I was just a kid and Ken was my favorite character. I knew that Ken was my favorite character. And I saw something so cool in the crowd hype and it was ridiculous to me. And then fast forward, I'm 14 years old and I had just bought Street Fighter 4. I was playing it for a couple of months and I was on the internet, man, just scrolling through the internet.
yeah,
And I don't know how, but I must have been looking for Street Fighter videos or something because I landed on Evo Grand Finals on Justin TV when you were playing against Daigo.
yeah.
And I think like the first match had already happened. But when I stumbled on that, I was like, oh my God, these are the same two guys. And this is a huge crowd and this is crazy. Like, what's going on? And that was my first real taste of who Justin Wong was from that perspective. And the fact that there was such a thing as the FGC where there was tournaments for Street Fighter. And I was like, man, if these guys can do it, I want to be able to do it too. There's no reason why I can't do this, you know?
Yeah.
So watching that grand finals from you and Daigo in Street Fighter 4 literally inspired me to pursue this career of being a fighting game player. So I don't think I've ever told you that before, but over the years, we've competed against each other. And honestly, one of my greatest memories was my first major win was against you in 37 Reloaded. And that win actually gave me the confidence to be able to do this and know that I can become a professional player, So I gotta thank you a lot for, being such a pivotal role in me doing what I've done for 15 years now. And I've had the pleasure of knowing you for about 10 of those years, and we've become good friends along the way. So I'm very grateful for these experiences, man.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I first heard of you and your whole crew because I was like home watching Wednesday night fights, and then I forget who was on commentary, but they were like bringing up like yeah, like this crew from like kind of like far from SoCal, like a different area. I don't know about the geography, but they're
Yeah.
like it was like you, Lucan, Brent, like all came down and just like wrecking havoc in like the Wednesday night fight tournaments and everything. And you were always so hungry to always like get better, wanting to just play the best players. And even like during like when you won the tournament during 7 reloaded, like it was like really sick, right? It was really sick how you were just like kept on grinding, and then Street Fighter 5 came out, you kept playing the game, qualified for Capcom Cup, and you're like, hey man, like I qualified for Capcom Cup, can I come over to your house and just play?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and those were like grinds, those are sessions, right?
Man.
So it was just like, seeing you keep doing it in six as well too. It's like I know how passionate you are when it comes to like fighting games and just like, applying yourself to just like trying to get better in anything you do. So it's really nice to see that like, you're still playing and you're still trying to like push the scene, right? Like so it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Man, thank you for those words as well. I just wanted to I just want to start this off with, a lot of people know your story, but there might be people out there that are interested in hearing how you were raised, the type of environment that you were in, and I just found out that apparently you were a villain at some point from F Champ when I spoke to F Champ last week. So I'm interested in hearing about that. And
It's
what kind of
weird.
got you to
Yeah,
like,
it's weird because I don't even think I was a villain. It was just like, so I'll tell you, right? It's so I was raised up, born in New York, Chinatown Fair, but we were the family, we were poor as hell. So
mm,
most of the time I would go to the arcade and just kind of like watch people play because I couldn't afford to like put a quarter in or put 50 cents in to play like
oh,
Marvel's
wow.
Capcom or Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. I would like watch and then tell them, oh, you could do this, you could do that. And I'm like, hey, let me get a second round. Let me show you what to do. Right. So that's how I would get to
Wow.
play, would be like, yo, let me show you how to get better to like the people that can put the quarters in the machine. Um,
Wow.
so I would just be spectating just from the sidelines and seeing other people play, the better players play, like Eddie Lee, Arturo Sanchez, Henry Sen, and I would just like take their strats, and for the people that are like not as good, I'll tell them this is what you can do. So I did that a lot to play fighting games before I was able to like afford to put my own quarters in and play on my own, right? Because there was no console back in the day; it was just arcade. Um,
Right.
so that's kind of like where I started just playing fighting games and everything. And like I got into FGC because like one day, like I showed up in Chinatown Fair, and I usually go to Chinatown Fair in the morning, like 10 a.m. Like the whole like every weekend or during like summer vacation or any spring break, I would just go there like first thing in the morning, just like because that's like my training mode, right? Because
Mm.
we didn't have consoles, and I just see a whole crowd, and I'm like, why is there so many people outside at 10 a.m.? It's just so rare. And then they're like, hey, Justin, yeah, we're actually going to go to New Jersey for this tournament called ECC, which is called East Coast Championship. And they had the
Okay.
best players around America coming to this tournament. This is when Alex Valle and John Choi were still traveling for these tournaments. So they went to that same tournament. I didn't get to meet them because I was so confused. I was young. I was like,
Yeah, I was gonna say how
yeah, I
old?
was like around, yeah, I was 14 years old at this time. Um, so I entered my first tournament, and this was like Marvel's Capcom 1 and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Marvel's Capcom 2 is actually out now, but this is all the characters were not unlocked yet. Because it's pretty
Okay.
much based off how much money you put in a machine. Every time you put X amount of money in a machine, a character unlocks. And so it's kind of like time release. It's kind of a funny
Wow.
way to get money to unlock
Yeah,
characters,
I was about
right?
to say they was scamming
Yeah, yeah,
people,
they were
huh?
scamming people, man. The level system was no joke. So, Senno wasn't even unlocked yet. He was like the last four characters to unlock, and there's 56 characters, like 30 unlocked. So you got to put a lot of
Wow.
money in that machine to get all these characters unlocked, right? So
Yeah.
they didn't run a Marvel's Capcom 2 tournament. So I entered my first tournament. It was like over like 400, 500 people for each game, like all the games, like Alpha 3, ST, Marvel 1, Third Strike. And I got fifth place in Marvel's Capcom 1 and Third Strike. And the people that I lost to were the people I lose to at Chinatown Fair. So I beat every player
Mm.
that I fought that was like from like different states, different regions. But I just lost to the same people that I would normally lose to at the arcade, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of gave
Yeah.
me the taste of like, wow, this is really, really fun, right? I didn't even win any money. I was just like, this was great. Like my whole goal was to like keep getting better and wanting to just beat the best players. And I didn't even know you can win money, right? Um, so that's like kind of like the little general backstory. And moving forward to like the whole villain thing, I actually don't know the whole villain thing. I just know there was a lot of East Coast versus West Coast hate. Where
Okay.
'cause-
Well, that makes
yeah,
sense.
it's a lot of bias. There was a lot of bias because I guess the tournaments were all on the West Coast, like before Evo, it was called Evo, it's called like the Battle by the Bay series, right?
Yeah.
And people would just be like, yeah, boo East Coast, boo East Coast. It was really crazy, like some Civil War type of stuff, right? Um,
Jesus.
yeah, it was insane. It's obviously completely different now, in this modern era, and even like 10 years ago. But before it was like hatred. Like every time I would play or like whatever, this is when I was already like established, right?
Hmm.
People would just boo me, and I'm like, I don't even talk to them. I don't. There was no social media yet, so it's like I didn't even like give off any type of like negative vibe. It's just like, oh yeah, because he's from the East Coast and he took the West Coast crown, like that's the reason why we don't like him. And I'm like, okay, pretty trashy reason, but all right, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, there's even the part where it's like the grand finals was like, I think it was, yeah, Evo 2003. It was myself versus Ricky Ortiz, and this is the point where me and Ricky are great friends. And
Mm.
Ricky kind of like cock blocked everybody for the grand finals that they wanted. They wanted me versus Rotron because Rotron from Seattle, the West Coast, he was the
Yeah.
one that had the best chance to beat me. Because that was the rivalry back then. So Ricky
Okay.
upsetted that, made the upset happen, and then I just smoked Ricky, right? And then the
Wow.
whole
Okay.
time everyone's like boo, and they're walking out of the venue. All the West Coast people are walking out the venue like, oh, this is boring, this is whack, and everything. And it got to the point where the Cannon Brothers were like came up to me and was like, yo, um that was that collusion? Like, I don't think we can pay you. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
What?
Right? I was like, what are you talking about? And then they're like, yeah, like you just beat Ricky too easily. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, I'm in grand finals side, winner side. I didn't get touched the whole entire tournament. Like, that was like super dominated performance from me the whole entire
Third
time.
strike, right?
No, this is Marvel One.
Marvel
No,
one.
sorry,
Marvel
Marvel
one.
Two, Marvel Two, right?
Okay.
And they just like, yeah, like it didn't because I smoked Ricky 3-0 in the 4 out of 7 in the grand finals. Um, they were just like, yeah, we it didn't look right, and I was like, I don't know, I just played my game and just beat everybody the same way. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of funny because like there was like real bias, a lot of bias towards that time frame. So I
Uh,
think that's kind of what people think of like, oh, I was a villain, but yeah, I don't know. I never thought I was a villain because I never did anything. There was no such thing as like interviews or anything. It was just
uh,
I just come up, show up, play, and leave. Like,
and just shit on everybody and then go back to what you were doing.
yeah, I didn't even like pop off or I never like pop off or anything like that too. So it was just weird. I think it was just more of just like the rivalry between East Coast versus West Coast, and I was associated with East Coast because I was from there.
Right. So that's how you initially got started from the competition side of it. But I'm curious as to, you're one of a kind, Justin. I mean, you're known as the greatest fighting game player in American history. Your name is the biggest fighting game player name in American history. And I just want to know, what separated you from everyone else? I wrote
Hmm.
here that there were many killers at the time. You became the prodigy. You became the greatest fighting game player in American history. How does this happen? And what did your training look like from the beginning till about now? Obviously, now you have your family and you're more on the content side, but I would still be willing to bet any amount of money that if you actually played Street Fighter 6 or any game, you would destroy 99.999% of the people that touch this game. So, but I just want to know at that time period, like what made you the prodigy? Like, how did the game click in your head better than everybody else? And there were many killers at the time. So I'm very interested in hearing your perspective of it because you're essentially the Tom Brady of fighting games in America.
I think it's also it's also based off like the person that like before I was Justin Wong, there was Eddie Lee, and I want to say it was because of him because he was the definition, and nobody really has footage or like kind of like knows who he is, right? Like but he was
Yeah, I've
like,
heard his name. He's like a
yeah,
phantom,
he's like the East
legend.
Coast legend, and he was the original lane player, like super defensive player, like literally like if Alex Valle was like the sword, he was the shield, right? That was kind of like the
Okay.
rivalry before I came on the scene, and I would play him in like every game, and he would smoke me in every game. Like literally, like he just had the better fundamentals. He was the epitome of like this is what fundamentals looks like and carries over to every game. So I like kind of like made my gameplay off of him. And the one thing that stood out when I finally got better than him and able to kind of like lame him out was that I just had better offense plus reactions than his defensive style. So
Um,
that really helped me kind of like it really shaped my gameplay. And so I just took that and played all these other fighting games with kind of the same mentality of like carrying fundamentals over and over.
Hmm.
And defense, man, defense is the key of the game to actually understand like people's habits, players' habits, understanding like matchups when you could steal, when you could take back your turn and everything like that. Like offense, I know like now, or even like from the last few years, it's like so good and people get mauled and everything like that. But ultimately, in the end, at the highest level of the gameplay will slow down eventually, right? The gameplay
Of
will slow
course.
down, and people are going to have to kind of play neutral fundamentals, footsies, and everything. So I really use what I learned fighting against Eddie Lee from like the late '90s, early 2000s, and him just busting my ass all the way till now. Like I think that really helped a lot. And literally like there's times where like there's so many different tournaments, different games I never played before. But I'm like, okay, well, who's the Shoto of the game, right? Who's the one that has who's the fundamentally sound character? And I could pick up that character and beat people who has played this game for like maybe like months, weeks, or or whoever writes the wiki or whatever, because it's like if you don't
Yeah.
have basic fundamentals, then it's like like you could be better than me at the game, like knowledge wise, and I'll tell people like that. Yeah, he's better than me in the game. He just doesn't have better fundamentals than me, and that's probably the reason why he lost. Because
Right.
there's lots of like tournaments that they have a lot of side tournaments, right? Like even now, right, the random side tournaments and everything. So it was like the same
Yeah.
thing back in the day, and now I'm at the point where I can travel and win the major tournaments like Dirt Strike, CVS 2, Marvel 2, and so forth. But the prize pool is like $300, $400 for first place. It's very low, right?
Right. Right.
So I would have to learn all these different games that are coming up as like side tournaments, not like the major stuff, to try to get a profit. Like, cause
Oh,
yeah, I was
yes,
super
yes.
broke. I was super broke, man. So me, and there was no sponsors. So flying to like, let's say I went to final round, right? Final round going from New York, like $300 ticket, and then we'll split a hotel room with like 8 people in a room and stuff, right? So we're and then pay.
What year was this, by the way?
This was like during the whole 2000s.
Wow. So the final round even existed back then.
Yeah, yeah. Final round and Texas Showdown are like kind
Wow.
of like the oldest tournaments, the longest like tournaments that ever like existed.
That are still alive right now.
Except for I don't think Final Round anymore, but Texas Showdown is
Oh, yeah.
now the longest fighting game tournament series of all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would have to learn all these different games, like all these SNK games, like like random fighting games that I didn't even have in my arcade. I would have to learn them to like kind of gain a profit, right? And that's kind of
That's
like, yeah,
crazy.
that's kind of what gave me the name of like, oh yeah, he just plays whatever he wants and he's just good at it. That's like kind of where that came from.
That's
Um,
where the prodigy came from.
yeah, like
Mm.
because that's how I would make my money, able to just like survive and not let my grandma have to worry to like her try to like work really hard and everything. Was me trying to win all these random ass tournaments like at the major tournaments in order for me to gain a profit, right? So now
Yeah.
me winning like 10 tournaments in one final tournament, I would make maybe like around like close to $2,000, right? Compared to like if I just won Marvel 2 and Third Strike,
Right.
that's only like $600. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I increased that by playing all these tournaments and becoming like a multi fighting game player and everything like that. And pretty
Mm.
much that really helped me understand how to like play fighting games in a faster pace, or learn how to play fighting games in a faster pace, because of my experience of just kind of hustling these like these side tournaments at tournaments.
And that in itself is what spreads your name around
It
the
does, yeah.
country even faster because you're tapping into every scene and all these scenes are now talking about you. That's crazy, man. Like I didn't even like you're literally playing games that aren't even in your arcade just so you can make a little bit of profit. Like, man, people don't know that like being broke pushes people
Oh,
to
100%.
to you know to do the extremes. And that's just amazing to hear that like you helped your family from that and you recognized your skill level was better than these people in terms of the fundamentals. I mean, but what like What do you think separated you though from everybody else at that time? Like there was, Ricky who's a killer. There's all these players that are killers, but like how what made you so dominant in an era where, like YouTube didn't exist, and you didn't really know if somebody came out with some crazy unblockable tech or something like that. Like, how do you manage to stay so consistent from the late '90s to the 2000s, leading up to Street Fighter 4?
It would have to just be just playing as lame as possible. I play off the clock. I don't play off of like the player,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. No, that's
Right,
that's facts.
right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
all
yeah.
about the timeouts and everything, and literally all my games. Like even if I don't like know how to play the game, my theory is like if I don't know how to play this game or don't know the matchup, I'm going to block and let you have your turns, let you have your offense until I see kind of like your habits of like what you like to go for, and then from
Okay.
there, that's when I counter, right? So let's say, for example, if you're playing Street Fighter 4 and then you're playing Ken, and then you're like, okay, I like to do crouch medium kick fireball into FADC into crouch short stand jab, and then carrot throw, right? And then you
Right.
keep doing that like 3 times in a row. Then I will realize, oh, okay, this is what you like to do after this. So maybe I can just do like a interrupted, I could interrupt with a reversal during that string after the FADC. So I'll look for little
Hmm.
gaps and little like sequences like that, because eventually most people that play fighting games, they always have a habit. It's always they always have a habit and always have like these specific flowcharts of like offensive strings that they like to do, right? And it's really hard to find those like typical like like typical strings in defense. Like if you're a defensive player and you have like this little knack to like, let's say shimmy, right? The easiest thing is like, yeah, you fall for shimmies all the time. But if he doesn't
Okay.
fall for shimmy or mixes it up, it's kind of harder to find like that his flowchart defense. But in terms of flowchart
Yes.
offense, it's way easier to spot out. So that's what I would just block for like 30 seconds. Like, yeah, do your offense, and then eventually I'll see the gap, I'll see your flowchart string, and then I'll counter that. And then from there, once you take that away, their whole game plan falls apart, because then they realize, oh, I have to rely on my neutral, my fundamentals, and whiff punishes, and that's my
Hmm.
territory.
Hmm.
That's where I want to be. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the one thing that I do pretty well, I think, compared to like other players who were like the master of their crafts, right? From
Yeah.
back in the day.
Okay. So I'm actually curious. That I wanted to go into the next topic, but I'm curious about something that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
and I feel like it would help me out a lot, and it would help out a lot of players as well. You said that you would see a sequence, for example, in Street Fighter 4, such as low forward, fireball, FADC, crouch short, stand jab, carry throw, right?
Yeah.
And then you said maybe they do it like 2 to 3 times, and then you pick that up, and then maybe the fourth time you respond with something.
Yep.
Now, in a 2 out of 3, you don't have much time to be able to pick up the patterns that they're doing. See, one of the issues that I have as a player, Justin, is I'm really good in longer sets,
Hmm.
like first to fives, first to tens. I feel more comfortable. Even in a first to three, I feel a little bit more comfortable. But in this 2 out of 3, and obviously in a first to three as well, I feel like my play style is catered more towards a first to five or a first to 10. And I'm not sure how I can do a better job of picking up people's patterns. Because let's say, for example, in Street Fighter 6 terms, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's say I'm Ken and I'm going up against Luke.
Okay.
Okay. Luke does crouching medium kick into drive rush, crouching jab into throw.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a true block string, the crouching medium kick, drive rush
Yep.
into
Crouch jab.
crouching jab. The next part is the 50-50. It's either he's going to go for a throw, or either he's going to go for like a slightly delayed button or a shimmy.
Hmm.
Let's just keep it for simplicity's sake. Let's say he either presses a throw or goes for the shimmy after the crouching jab. Okay. That is a true 50-50 right
It
there.
is.
Either he's going to throw me or he's going to shimmy me.
Yep.
Now, in my head, let's say it's early in the round, okay? Like round one fight, it just started. He starts off the round with walk up, crouching medium kick, DRC, crouch jab. In my head, I'm like, okay, I should probably eat the throw here because I have a lot of life. He just wasted 3 bars. I should probably eat the throw here. Okay, great. I eat the throw, but now I'm faced with the next 50-50. If he decides to drive rush, meaty, or drive rush throw. Now, in my head, I'm like, man, should I have ate the throw right there? Like, okay, what about next time? If he does this again, I should probably tech. And then I try to tech, and then I get shimmied for a billion damage. And it's like, I'm trying to, for example, I see his option A, right? He went for the throw.
Yeah.
And then I respond with my option A to counter his option A, right? I'm like, okay, well, I have to tech the throw here in order for me to counter it. Now, obviously, there's a backdash as well, but I'm just keeping it for simplicity's sake. My pattern recognition, I feel like, is not being done fast enough, or somehow it's wrong because I'm guessing wrong quite often. And I'm not sure how to strengthen that aspect of my gameplay,
All
man.
right.
Like, this is a legitimate question. It's a
So
2 out of 3. It's Street Fighter 6. I'm dying.
I get it, right? I know where you're coming from. So now, before we get into that Street Fighter Six thing, right? It's obviously easier from back in the day because there were more defensive options, right? Street Fighter Four had the crouch tech. So because of that, it's like you're not going to eat a bajillion damage in Street Fighter 4 because of defensive options in that nature, and they pretty much took that out from Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 6. Now, for Street Fighter 6, for pattern recognition, what I would like to do, and actually, this is actually the perfect point to bring up. Obviously for your Street Fighter League NA win, when I watched it, and you remember if you watched I don't know if you rewatched the video, but you lived the moment. You remember that time when it was like, you were fighting Punk, and
Yes.
literally Zhao Hai was, trying his best to talk English to you, and it was really hard to understand. I actually understood everything he said because I would have gave you the same strategy. Like,
Okay.
literally, he was like, "Yeah, all you have to do is just against that situation. All you have to do is just walk forward against Punk and just crouch block low." And literally, he's going to do crouch medium kick drive rush. It wastes his drive
Yeah.
gauge, and you make Cammy you force her to use her drive gauge, and from there, she just doesn't have a game plan. Because even if you take the throw from there, she spends 3 bars, and now you have to do that one more time, and then she's possibly burned out in that situation, right? So
Yeah.
that's what he meant, and a lot of people didn't understand that, but I understood what he meant because I'm like, yeah, that's definitely what you should do against players that like to do like button in the drive rush cancel. So now
Yeah.
for Luke, for example, with like crouch medium punch,
Or Ken too.
yeah, or whatever,
Ken too.
Ken,
Yeah.
yeah, any character with a great crouch button into drive rush into 50-50 grab or whatever.
Yes.
So now,
Yes.
what I would do, like the response is like you need to train to drive reversal the button to drive rush. I think that's the one thing that people don't do enough, because when you think about risk and reward, okay, you did button drive rush, you spend 3 bars to drive rush that. I drive reversal at that time, right? It spends 2 bars. Can you counter the drive reversal? It's a hard read because the player has to do super, right? Something with like an invincibility that beats the drive rush, the drive reversal cancel.
Right.
So, but the thing is, if you think about that, it actually puts you full screen away after hitting that drive reversal, especially if you spend 2 bars versus your 3 bars. Obviously, that's not going to work every single time because based off like drive gauge management. But if that was round one fight, then your first initial response, instead of taking the grab or seeing that the 50-50 is happening, because obviously offense is so strong in that position, is using your defensive option of drive reversal dare, because then that gives you information of like, oh, he's not even confirming it, right? He's just actually just doing button into doing it, right? To put himself in the offense to get the party started. So what happens
Yeah.
if you don't let him have the party started? He's down 3 gauges. What's it? Is he going to do it again? You're walking forward, so you're going to get back your drive gauge faster than he is, the one that used to spend 2 bars worth, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
is he going to
yes.
just do it again and put himself in a burnout situation? Because even if he does it again, right, that's when like he has to make a decision, right? So you can actually do drive reversal again, or actually just do like you block the crouch jab and then do a like OD reversal, and from there he's burnt out. He's closer to the corner, because from there you can make a more offensive decision with your defensive while you're in defense, because he's using the second 3 meters for the drive rush cancel. So that's how I would look at it, as like kind of use that drive gauge management into your favor with the defensive terms to force him
Yeah.
to play a more slower paced game, because from there, then he'll play your game because he's like, well, I need to wait for my drive gauge to come back. So
Yeah.
I have to play this neutral. And
And you're walking forward as well to
exactly.
create a neutral pressure against your opponent. So
Yeah.
now you're forcing him to try to press a button, and if he whiffs something, you can whiff punish if your fundamentals are stronger.
Yeah.
So that's actually really really good advice, and I never really use drive reversal because it's so shitty in Street Fighter Six.
It's not
Like
the best,
it doesn't
but
feel so good.
yeah, but for when it comes to people that
The
like to spam
DRCs.
DRCs, it's so good against DRCs.
Okay, that is well noted, and I'm definitely going to start practicing
Yeah.
that. Um, I'm sorry. I just want to kind of feed off on this because this is really amazing. Um, okay, I promise one more, and then we'll go on
Okay,
to the
okay,
next
all right, go
topic.
for it,
But
bro.
okay, because you're such an amazing defensive player, um, you mentioned that Street Fighter Six doesn't have as many defensive options as, let's say, Street Fighter Four, or maybe previous Street Fighter games, but I feel like Street Fighter 6, when I'm on offense, and this is something I talked to F Champ about, I feel really uncomfortable when I'm on offense in this game. I get a knockdown, yeah, I put you in the corner, but if I meaty you, I get perfect parried. If I try to throw you and you backdash, I could potentially get side switched.
Hmm.
And just that perfect parry threat alone. And then let's add on top of it JP's amnesia, Cammy's jump EX dive kick, Chun-Li's instant air jump
Yeah.
legs, and there's one more character, and Jury's jump medium punch into the dive kick. Characters that have that extra layer of defensive option. Blanca jump airball to beat out the throw. What am I supposed to be doing against people that have these extra layers? And then the second part of this question is, for a very long time, the competitive scene has at least recognized that I love to do EXDPs on Wake Up.
Hmm.
And in my head, some of them are obviously emotional EXDPs because, you always have the get the fuck off of me EXDP at some point. But most of the time, I always feel like, oh, he pressed a meaty here. Oh, he did a button here. Okay, now this time I'm going to respond with a reversal, and then it ends up being blocked. I don't know how to time my EXDPs better. I don't know how to choose my defensive options better because it always seems like I'm choosing the wrong option. I don't know how to get better at that, man. Like I want to be as solid on defense as someone like you or as someone like Knuckle do. He changes his defensive options so much it's hard to get a read on him whenever I'm aggressive towards him. So bit of a two-parter right there, but could you answer that,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to offense, yeah, I can see why it's very uncomfortable because you could just hold parry and get a perfect parry, and then you back throw it, and it's like GG, right? And all these
Right.
other air moves and everything like that. Um, but I would say like mid screen, I feel like you don't really have to worry too much about that, right? Mid screen is kind of like, okay, people understand that like, okay, I should just block this out or take the grab or whatever. But ultimately, in the end, it's kind of just like researching players' habits, like literally players' habits. So, like for example, like Menardi, he's killing it. He's doing such big, so amazing in like the Street Fighter League and also like singles as well too. The one thing people are always like try to do is they always try to do meaty throw against him. It's like why? Like why would you want to always keep meaty throw him? He's playing Blanca, and it's like the chances of him just holding up back into like OD Blanca ball is like super high, but people are just so like they tunnel vision, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like sometimes like you might just tunnel vision and you might not realize it, and you're picking the same options over and over again. And
Mm,
and I think it's more of just like, let's say like for and you talk about how like your defensive options of like waking up DPs, like it's just people know you're gonna OD DP. Even you're saying like, yeah, like people just have like that read against me. One thing that
right.
yeah, like one thing I notice is like you don't you actually never go for like too many like crouch meme wake up crouch meme kicks actually. Right? So if
Mm,
somebody's like doing like if somebody thinks you're gonna do ODDP, right, you have to think in your head instead of the responding emotionally, like you have to think like, okay, what does he think I'm going to do? Right? So if
okay.
if
Okay.
you have that in your mindset, like there you'll have a better chance of just like waking with ODTP, waking up like taking the grab, perfect pairing, or even wake up or crouch medium kick, because you need to put in your shoes that like don't think like, oh man, I'm in danger. I need to do something to get him off of me, because I feel like a lot of times like this sounds weird, but a lot of times when I'm like playing or watching people play, I can smell like the fear in people and they want to wake up with something. Like
Yeah.
it's just like you can kind of like smell that, and
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you can
Yeah,
smell it too
absolutely.
when you're on offense and you
Yes.
feel like somebody's gonna wake up ODDP or like OD super or just do super and everything. You can smell it too, like as the offensive player,
Of course.
as the player that's doing offense. So think of it as like, does he smell the fear in me? Like because when you feel
Mm,
like how you mentioned like they're emotional DPS, that means they probably know that you're emotional as well too, right?
yeah.
So it's something that you have to think about. You have to like think if like of it from their perspective while you're getting knocked down. I know it might be too fast, but like the more you do it, the more I feel like the success rate of you able to change up those like your wake up options will probably be a lot higher as well.
I see. Okay, that is something I'm going to definitely have to think about. And there's so many more questions that I can ask within the mechanics of the game and whatnot. I could talk to you for as long as we've played First to Deaths.
Yeah.
But maybe we could save that for another time because I definitely want to go into this next topic here. I wrote this down. I wanted to talk about your Evo 2014 Marvel run.
Hmm.
This is a very, very important topic to talk about because, as someone who has tried his best to study sports psychology for all these years, I'm very curious as to how you lose in 2013, getting second place after resetting the bracket in the most unimaginable comeback that I ever thought of. Akuma against the three characters that were still alive, and you somehow won. And you pop off for a second. The crowd is literally roaring your name. I remember being in the crowd when that happened. And it was just crazy. Everyone was like, oh my God, there's no way Justin's going to lose now. Like, this is literally written for him to win that Evo.
Yeah.
And then you reset the bracket and then you end up losing.
Yeah.
So I want you, I know it was a long time ago, but just walk me through your feelings in that final and after that final, what you felt going into 2014. Did you think, like, man, I can't choke again or anything of that nature? The type of fear that was in you, the nerves. And then the second part of this question will be your training for 2014. How did it differ from 2013 with mental prep? But if you can answer that first part, please, like
Yeah.
that 2013 Marvel run, for anybody that hasn't watched it, please go and watch that because Justin, you're such an amazing player, and something that I've noticed from amazing players is that typically you don't really see them emotional visibly. They're kind of stone cold.
Hmm.
But that Evo was one of the first times where I actually saw you be emotional, where you were just feeding off that crowd energy, and it almost seemed like you were telling yourself, "This is it. I'm gonna win this Evo." So, can you walk me through your emotions in that and the type of the mental warfare that you had when you lost? Because I can't even imagine the black hole that you entered in your mind after losing that tournament and how it had an effect on you.
Yeah, I think for 2013, it was a really interesting year because like that was when Chris G was just killing everybody in tournaments, right? With the Morgan Doom, and I would always get like top three, like top three, top five. Like I would never really win a major that whole entire year. Like I would always lose to Chris G, like somewhere in the winners or losers bracket of like such major tournament. So leading up to
Yeah, it was you, Ryan, and Chris
yeah,
G at that time
yeah,
period from Marvel. Yeah.
yeah. So leading up to Evo 2013, it wasn't too much practice. It was just more of just like playing the game. Like I didn't like lab or anything. I just like, all right, I'll see you at the next week tournament, because this is when like tournaments were like happening every weekend.
Oh yeah, I
So
remember.
so
Yeah.
there's no real traveling, and in my head it's like I'm playing Wolverine Storm Akuma. It's not like obviously a meta team, but it's like a team that I like, and the crowd gave me so much energy, especially like before we got to the finals. Like I should have been lost like against Chris G. Like it was like loser quarters, and it was like he smoked me two straight. and he smoked
Wow.
my first two characters, and now it's just Storm with like a pixel, and literally people are just chanting my name and stuff like that. So then I make this like huge ridiculous comeback with like Storm of no like life against like all of his characters, and then the classic happens with the next match where I just kind of like smoked them. And now it's like the final match. And it's just going back and forth, back and forth. So that's kind of where the crowd finally gave me so much energy to like keep going and keep going. Because I'm not really used to the crowd cheering for me. Because, you know, bringing back from all the way from the beginning, a lot of people kind of like either found my gameplay boring or they booed me because I'm from the East Coast or stuff like that. So it was like
Yeah.
even Yipe say it like, wow, the crowd's actually cheering for him, right? So like
Mm,
on commentary, because it's like he was so used to like people not cheering for me because I was like from back in the day,
of course.
right? And now I'm playing like going through the losers bracket, playing Flocker, and it was just insane. Like that three character comeback, me just overhead chopping with
That
Akuma
was
to
bro. You
reset
did
the
it
bracket. I
twice.
did it twice. I was
You did
really
it
risky. It
twice,
was like,
bro.
it's the smell. Like I said, it's the
It's
smell of fear.
crazy.
I smelled the fear that I knew he wasn't gonna come down, press a button, or wake up Super because he was so scared, right? And it
Mm,
was like it was match point for him as well too. So it's like, oh, if he defends this, he could do his Super X Factor and try to like kill me from there and then win the tournament, right? So there was a lot
yeah.
on the line, and human emotions can get the best of you in these situations. So we reset the bracket, and the crazy part is after the reset the bracket, like I won the first game in the second set as well too, and I was
Yeah, you
feeling it.
did.
I was feeling it, and then but it got to the point where it's like 2-2. But the last game, I got the hit. I actually
You
had the
did.
game-winning formula. Like I finished the Infinite with Storm, and it was GG. Right, I was gonna put Hailstorm, speed up with Wolverine, go for the
Yeah,
50-50 X Factor. In my head, the game plan was there, but then I dropped a combo,
you did.
left zero
You
with a
held
yeah,
the
left zero
you.
with a pixel, right? Left zero with a
Yes,
pixel, and then he just killed the whole team from there, and
he did.
that was so
No, it was a
unfortunate.
combo drop. That was an actual
It
combo
was a
drop. It
combo
looked like
drop.
to me that you were trying to set up
Nah, nah.
like
It
a
was a
holding wind move. I don't know from
no.
Storm, but like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
oh
I know the
my
move.
god,
It's the vertical tornado, but that's
yeah,
an input error because when you cancel your fly, you have to hit both buttons at the same time to get the
hmm
unfly to come out properly. But I guess I didn't hit both buttons at the same time. I probably hit heavy before hitting S at the same time, and
yeah.
that caused the tornado to come out. And he capitalized off of it and killed Storm. Wolverine ate the
He
incoming.
just destroyed you right after that. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, everything right. And then
So you dropped the game-winning combo essentially. Like the game plan
the
after
game
that was
plan.
essentially set for you.
Yeah, it was sad because Virgil can't get out of it. He has to guess on the 50-50 three times in a row, and
Oh my god.
pretty much then Hawkeye would come in, and that's
Oh
it.
my
And
god,
make
dude.
Hawkeye making a comeback, especially against a defensive player like me, it's really tough, right? Because I would just wear the X Factor out, let him have a character, like kill a character, but based off chip damage at that situation,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then it's
Oh my
just like
god.
two v
Okay.
one.
Keep going. This is crazy. Keep
Right. It's
going.
just 2v1. So then he beats me, right? And I actually wasn't too sad, right? Like I was sad, but I wasn't too sad, because like I felt like I didn't I didn't think I was gonna be here, right? Because I wasn't practicing to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to train really, really hard, like because I was playing so many other games at the same time. So I didn't think I was gonna be there because I was actually this 2013. Yeah, I was actually playing a lot of Killer Instinct. Because I was winning all the Killer Instinct tournaments like that year. So I was trying to win Killer Instinct, and I got third at Evo for Killer Instinct.
Okay.
Even after winning all the major tournaments, like I was winning all of them, like MLG, uh, like CEO, all the tournaments. So losing Killer Instinct there, and then I think I got second in Cross Tekken as well too. Like I was
Yeah.
focusing on so many games. Now, the worst part of me losing that Marvel run was walking that hallway back to the hotel room.
Oh my god.
Because literally, like, I had the crowd on my feet. Everyone was so stoked. They're like, "Wow, you did so good, man. You get them next time. You get them next year." I don't want to hear that shit, right?
So shut the
I
fuck
don't want to
up.
hear that. Like, I get you're trying to, try to like be nice and everything like that, but
Yeah.
man, I don't want to. In my head, I'm like, man, am I gonna make it there next year with my team, or is it like, is the meta gonna evolve? I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm not thinking about next year. I'm like thinking like, damn, this sucks, right? So the more
Yeah,
I get,
man.
I probably heard over 100 plus of like just people saying, "Yo, man, it sucks, man. You almost had it. You should have had it. Like, you get them next time." I'm just like, oh, like I don't want to hear it. So, so now the whole time, it took me like a month to probably find like, all right, I'm over it, type of thing, right?
Hmm.
So then as 2014 is coming along, I started actually practicing really hard for Marvel 3. Like we like everyone was still losing to Chris G, right? And probably Chris G got even better in terms of defensive play and everything. But this time around, like I was training really hard. I was playing with like Marn, K Brad, like me and F Chan played like at first to death when he came to SoCal as well too. Like I was
Hmm.
practicing really, really hard, and even to the point where I was labbing scenarios in Marvel 3. And it's hard to lab out scenarios in Marvel 3 because there wasn't a very good record playback function like compared to like now, right?
Hmm.
So I would record like scenarios like, okay, if he mashes here, what can I do? Stuff like that, right? Like, oh, like Wolverine versus Morgan's not great. I want to save, like, I saved like me starting Storm against Chris G for like 6 months. Like every time I fought Chris G in a tournament, I would only do Wolverine on point. I didn't pick Storm on point.
Yeah, but in Evo you pick
Yeah, I
Storm.
picked Storm on point on Evo Grand Finals. The first time he
Yep.
has ever fought it, right? So
Wow.
like I lab scenarios like, okay, what can Storm do on like Morgan's like round one start? Because like her jump back jab with Morgan was just like unbeatable. Like Wolverine couldn't stop it, but Storm's jump forward jab actually stops Morgan's jump back jab, and then she's able to negate a lot of the fireballs with her tornado. Like play more of the stall game, play more of a defensive game instead of just me trying to like, I need to kill Morgan as fast as possible. I could take my time with Storm because I have more air mobility. I can flow in the air. I can negate projectiles. I have hailstorm, so I can snipe out Doctor Doom. So this was like a strategy that I had for like months in the making, right?
Wow.
And then him able and Chris G calling Virgil assist as well too, like full screen. And a lot of times people just never challenged it. So I learned how to like challenge it while he's throwing fireballs protecting Virgil, challenging it, jump cancel into block, and then able to OTG from there, trying to get I would be able to get half life off of like him just calling raw Virgil assist. So like his Virgil's
I see.
bleeding. So he lost that full screen neutral, right? Right.
Yeah.
So I will learn all this type of stuff and never use it until Evo. Like I'll see it like at like CEO or Combo Breaker,
Yeah,
and I
like
would
did
not
you
use
play
it.
you played
Yeah, I played him
yeah, you
many
played Chris
times.
G.
I played him
Yeah,
many
and were
times
you
leading
beating
up.
him at that time or he was beating
He
you?
was beating me, but I didn't use any of the strategies that I was labbing.
Right.
Like I was
Right,
just
right, right. You're saving
literally
that.
I was literally saving that shit for nationals. That's what Mike Watson would say, right? Save that shit for
Hmm.
nationals. And that's
Hmm.
what I did. I waited till the right moment, the right tournament to actually use the strategies that I practiced for.
Wow. Okay, so that's what your training looked like for that 2014
Yeah.
Evo run. Now, like what did the mental prep actually look like for you? Because all of this is mental, and when you drop the game-winning combo essentially the year before, going into that top eight in the finals, like how did you feel, man? Like walk me through that, and you being in grand finals, then obviously you winning Evo, because I remember, man, that place erupted. We all erupted for you, and then we all see you fall. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
give us some context
So
on
I
that
think
one.
2013, no, 2014. So my first match in top eight was against Flocker. So the person who beat me last year, right? But this time
Yeah.
I beat him pretty bad. It was like 3-1, and it was pretty convincing the whole entire time. I actually forced him to pick like kind of pick a different team, not pick his evil team. At the
Mm,
last game. So for me, after beating him, I felt very good, right? And then winners
Yeah,
finals, me versus champ, it can go either way. Like, cause we played each other so much, like we play sets, and it's like literally like he could win the set 10-9, then the next day I'll win the set 10-9. It's always like
of
that.
course, of
It's
course.
never like somebody just gets like this 5 game win lead and it's just like, okay, it's a bad first attempt. It's always just so sweaty and everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, and to be honest, I got really lucky. I got really lucky against him because I,
The happy birthday.
yeah, the happy birthday was completely random. Because in my head, like how it happened was, if you watch the match, right, he has Dark Phoenix. He has literally Dark Phoenix and Doctor Doom versus Mayakuma, right?
Yes.
I'm chasing him, trying to do something, but he doesn't have super, or he doesn't have a good way to kind of like pop X Factor and just like go to town and just start up like traps and fireballs and everything like that. So I had that going for me, but he lands the air hit, right? Lands the air hit, presses X Factor, and decides to do a dash attack. And now in my head, I'm like, yeah, I lost. Everyone probably thought, yeah, I lost, right? Because he hit me, right?
Yeah.
But in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, well, sometimes people do drop combos, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
people do drop combos. They don't do tournament combos. So if he drops his combo while I'm mashing, then I would technically get the hit. So I was just
Yeah.
mashing just in case, like mashing Team Super, just in case he drops
Oh
the
my
combo,
God.
right? And it just magically worked out that he did drop the combo, or well, not drop the combo, but thought this thought this combo would work. It's something that he didn't lab, right? And it's crazy because Champ is a lab monster, but because
Yeah.
this is a weird case scenario, he just thought that in his head this should work, but
Yeah.
it came out that it didn't work. And I was able to get the team super. And some reason he called Doctor Doom in the process, and then I guess because he was trying to do like crouching light plus Doctor Doom assist, and it was just, I guess from that point I was like, man, like literally God gave me that happy birthday, right?
Yeah, he did.
They gave me the happy
Yeah,
birthday,
he
but
did.
it's, I always tell people, yeah, I mean, like people would think that's such an amazing comeback, but I always tell people, yeah, I got lucky there. I shouldn't have won. He just made the wrong choice, wrong decision at literally that split second, and I was happily thinking about, because I always think about people could drop combos, right? So while people are dropping combos, I'm always inputting like the reversal, like just in
Of
case
course.
if something did happen, right?
100%. You
And
never let your hands off the stick. You
exactly.
should
I
never let your
never
hands
let it
off
go.
the
I
stick.
like most people would be like they'll just like throw their hands up in the air and then realize, oh, they dropped the combo, try to rush back, but it'll be too late, right?
Hmm.
My hands are always on the stick until I see the KO, right? Once I see the KO, that's when I let go. But
Of course.
besides there, I was still fighting even while I was getting hit, and it just worked
Yeah.
out. And then
So you heard it from Justin. Just be a masher.
yeah,
All
be a
right. Just
masher,
mash.
right? And then grand finals happens, and Chris G is coming back, and I'm on winner's side, right? So it's like I can
Yes.
take more risk, because I have, I can afford a 3 out of 5. So
Yeah.
that's when I started Storm first, and I mean it was a dominant first game that I smoked them in. I won that, and now second game obviously it's a little bit harder, and
Hmm.
but it's still competitive. And when it comes to like long games, I love playing the long games. I love playing with the clock, right? So I feel like no matter what, I'm okay playing until time over. And I think Chris G is also a person that doesn't mind to play the clock and time over because we come from the same era, same arcade, same city and
Yeah.
everything. So we play the lame stuff, right? And but the thing is, I was like, the one thing that separates from me and Chris is that like I don't think he knows like my habits versus me knowing his habits because I have a really good idea of how his defense can be cracked, right?
Okay.
So a lot of times like I really study like okay, like this, like for example, Chrissy hates taking throws. Like he will always try to take a throw. Like he hates taking throws. So in Marvel, I would
Hmm.
just like literally stand in front of him, delay a button, pretend I go for a throw, and go low, and I'll always clip him. Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
always like have to kind of use against him in situations because like if I force him in a defensive position, he's blocking Tatsu. I always know how to open him up. If you watch like me play Chris throughout like the years, he always gets hit by by my storm when he's blocking my Tatsu. Like it's just
Hmm.
guaranteed. right? So, and that's
Hmm.
what got me to win ultimately in the fourth game was I put him in Tatsu. He already spent his X Factor Virgil. He has Virgil Doom left, and I have Storm Akuma left, but I have X Factor still. So I'm like, oh, if he gets hit
Yeah.
right now, it's checkmate. It's easily checkmate. He gets hit low, X Factor, smoked his Virgil. Doctor Doom's coming in, chip him out with Hailstorm, and now
Yep.
it's like so hard for him to make a comeback. Right, any little chip damage, I'm going to win. Um, and even in like, there's a video that Esteban made. Even the video, like me like celebrating the win, give him a hug. He even like says it in the video. You can hear it. He's like, man, you changed it up on me. And I was like, yeah, I was saving this tech for
Uh,
like 6 months, bro. Like, I was literally saving this counter pick and the strategy for 6 months until the right tournament.
and that's insane. And I mean, at that time, you had already won Evos, but this one was special, man,
Yeah, this
because
one
you
meant a lot.
were one of the Marvel gods, and everyone wanted you to win that year.
Yeah,
Everyone wanted you to
I
win,
think
man.
yeah, I think it's just because like I felt like if I was like a Zero May Cry player or like a Morgan Dube, the hype, the explosion of the cheers would not be as big, right?
Yeah.
But because I'm playing like a team that's like from my heart and just like not the meta team, and people always
It
want
was
the underdogs. Yeah,
unorthodox.
people always
It
want
was
the weird
unorthodox.
stuff or like the not norm stuff always win, right? That's just how it is when it comes to like any type of competition, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, man, that's it's really dope to hear your perspective on it because the mental side of it was what I was thinking about this whole time. Like how was he able to stay so mentally calm during those types of situations, especially facing the combo drop last year, which cost him the Evo, and then coming back and literally winning it. I mean, there's not many people on this planet who could do something like that. The I know that for me, when I lost Capcom Cup, it was really hard for me mentally. In 2018, I was one round away from making top eight,
Yeah.
and that one, like, it really killed me on the inside for months and months and months. So it's just interesting to hear how you were able to bounce back and then prepare the way that you did. I want to go down a different route here for this next topic because you're somebody who, in my opinion, has like a million sponsors. With Street Fighter 6 being so big and obviously Tekken 8 coming out and all these new fighting games, we always see the increase of sponsorships of players and whatnot. But a lot of people don't know the realities of sponsorships, and I kind of wanted to go into that for a little bit and talk about what it's actually like to be a pro gamer because a lot of people, especially on Twitter, think that they know and think that we have this like
We have a
lifestyle,
good.
but yeah, but they don't know like how insanely difficult it is. So, this one's a two-parter here where I said the amount of money you can make, typically the 1% of, fighting game players are asking for maybe $500 to $1,000 a month, which is literally nothing. And unless you land some sort of Evo or Capcom Cup win, if you're a professional player, I mean, you're talking about players that, for context, like the NBA players, imagine NBA players that are in the 1% of playing basketball are asking for $500 or $1,000 a month. From personal experience, Justin, I mean, you've known me for a long time. I've had a lot of
Yeah.
sponsors, and, and a lot of them put me through a lot of hell. And I don't want to go into details about which sponsor did this or which sponsor did that. But what I do want to say is this is a very typical story for a professional fighting game player. You either have the sponsor tell you that they're going to pay you and then they don't end up paying you. And now you don't have income. You're not sure what to do. You're added a lot of stress. You have to win the tournament. You try to book a hotel through the sponsor and then they either book it really late
Yeah.
or they give you a crappy flight
Yeah.
because they didn't do their part of it. The most notorious one is, oh, we're no longer a sponsor and there's nothing you can do about it because you're young, you don't have the type of money to hire a lawyer. And what contract? Oh, what are you talking about? You signed a contract? I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about. That thing don't exist, bro. You're tripping. And I've dealt with that for a very long time. And from sponsors that people wouldn't think would do something like that, I'll just say that, I had a lot of my dreams crushed at one point in my life, and made me realize that, man, I kind of need to get a job at this point, because what I thought in my head was the pinnacle of sponsorships ended up being one of my worst nightmares and the biggest lesson that I learned from God. So if you can give your perspective of this whole professional player lifestyle, and man, we deserve so much more for how good we are, but it just, it's not the
Yeah,
reality of it.
it's tough. I mean, like so I was first sponsored by EG, right? Evil Geniuses in 2010, right? And even
Yeah.
then, like if you do research during then, like if you're trying to like pick up the number one fighting game player, and I was young, right? And I never been sponsored before. So to me, like someone come up to me and says, "Hey man, we want to pay for your flight, hotel, give you a salary per month, and all you gotta do is wear our jersey and just don't don't do dumb stuff online. You're good,
Right.
right?" In my head, I'm like, "Oh, word, like that's amazing." And coming from a person who was broke growing up, I thought like, "Oh, this is my chance." And they offered. I only got 1,000 a month during that time, and to me, I thought that was the best thing in the world, right? Because it's like I'm
Yeah.
finally there. So I didn't know that there was this whole like other esports teams. They get like so much more, like 10,000, 5,000, or whatever crazy amount, like millions, right? Possibly depending on
Yeah.
what game you play. So for me, 1,000 a month, and then going to all the tournaments. In my head, I'm like, yeah, I don't have to pay for tournaments and hotels anymore, so I would always be in the money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually, the more like the better the sponsors are. Like Evil Genius was like really credible, and they kept me for like so many years. So they kept increasing like my pay. But talking to a lot of other people and talking to like sometimes shady orgs and everything like that, they would promise the world to you,
Oh.
and
Oh
clearly,
yeah.
clearly, clearly, it wouldn't be like that. It's just really hard because like you know you're in that same position that I was. Like, oh my god, really? You want to sponsor me? You want to give me money to wear a shirt? Like, it's always gonna be like in your head, like rainbows and flowers, right? There's
Man, I
nothing,
thought I could
right? There,
help my family,
right?
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. There's nothing where you're like thinking like, oh, is this legit? Is this shady? You're thinking like, oh man, I finally made it. Mom and dad, we finally here,
Yep.
right? That type of thing.
100%.
So
100%, man.
it's just really tough because like even now I think like a lot of times people don't know how to negotiate for themselves, or they want like so much more. And I think, yeah, I mean, we're really skilled players and everything like that. Fighting games, if you're really good at fighting games, it's like such a big skill. But the problem is, I think a lot of times, like let's say the investors for the team, they're the ones that's going to be like, yeah, we don't get it. What's the number? What's the ROI, right? Return on investment.
Yeah.
And what's their social numbers? It doesn't even matter how good you are. Think about it, right? Like you have the number one, the Evo champ, right? Angry Bird. Let's see. What's his numbers? Angry Bird for his Twitter. Um, the number one fighting game player for Street Fighter 6, right? At least one of them. It's either him or Mena,
Right.
right? And he only has 23,000 followers. Imagine that, right? And how many people were watching Capcom, like Evo and everything like that, all the tournaments he's done. Like he has done so much, and he's such a great player. I remember playing him, and I realized he's so good, right? Mena has 43,000, right, followers. Right, we had over probably millions of people watching this tournament. Millions of people have seen like these two players play in particular. But their numbers
Yes.
are just not that big, right? And
Yeah.
because of that, the
Yeah.
investors looking into it, they're going to look at it and be like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe we can offer like 2,000 a month, blah blah blah." But I'm sure Bandits and Nasser, they're taking them very well. But let's say if they were like free agents, right?
Yeah.
They would not get offered what they deserved, because they're going to look at the numbers, the statistics, and not based off like the passion and all the training they do. that's just the reality of it. It sucks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of realized that, and that's kind of why like I started to like really push like my socials and everything like that, because it really did help me in the long run with like getting on like new teams like Echo Fox and gaining like individual sponsorships. Because after Echo Fox, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be on team anymore. I want to get all these sponsorships on my own.
Yeah.
And from there, that means so I don't have so because like the sponsors are giving the team money, and then that money goes to the team plus the player, but it's a percentage of that, right? A little, like probably a low percentage of that. So why don't I talk directly to the brand and get the full bulk of myself?
Right.
Right. So
Right. Right.
me increasing my social numbers, and and Sherry, she's really good at making like those like one pagers of like or like a deck
Oh
for
yeah,
that
she
stuff.
made my player deck
Yeah,
as
she's
well.
really
Yeah.
good at that. So I use that deck to like fish for sponsors, and because of that deck I was able to get a lot, and like like have good relationships with, because like I was able to work with them, do like one-offs, or they signed for a year. And so it just sucks that like in order for you to like get good at fighting games or like practice, you still have to play this other field of like being this like content creator, or putting up your social numbers and putting more content out there instead of just like practicing and mastering your craft. It's just so hard
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, think about how much better all of us would have been if, you know, we were able to make a living off of just playing.
Yeah. Right.
Like look at NBA players and football players and whatnot. Like we are in the same category in terms of being in that 1%, but we're not getting anywhere near what they're getting. And the reality of life is you do need money
Yeah,
to
you do.
survive. What you put your time into. So, when you're putting your time into something that's not giving you income, it becomes very difficult to persuade your family and or a significant other that
It's
like,
tough.
hey,
Yeah.
it's gonna hit one day,
Yeah, it's gonna hit one day.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So then,
and
yeah, that's
considering how you can get throw loop to death, like I don't know, bro. Like
yeah.
it's just it's been a very difficult journey, and I'm grateful for Capcom and all these companies that have invested money into the community, and obviously it's a growing thing. It's just I'm curious as to where it'll be in 20 years and the types of sponsorships the new guys will have. But my time is running out as well, and I'm just kind of it is what it is at this point. I'm glad that I had the experiences that I did because it shaped the type of man that I became. But
Yeah, I agree. One
you
thousand
learn a
percent.
lot about life, Justin. You learn a lot about life, and me personally, I've talked about this before. It helped me mature as a man, and it actually brought me a lot closer to God through my experiences because they were just sometimes you go through a lot of evil experiences with some of these organizations, and you just have to shake it off and come back swinging. So
No,
I just wanted to have that
it's
conversation with
yeah,
you.
it's
Sorry to
tough.
interrupt.
No, yeah, it's definitely tough, and it's really hard. But like I always tell people, like if they have like a specific deal or on the table, like they can always DM me and I'll read the contract, or I'll give them suggestions on like what you should ask for. Like there's times that you ask me to look over it
Oh
and blah
yeah,
blah blah, and I'm like,
100%.
and I was like, hey, yeah, like this looks all right, but you could probably get more, ask for more, so why not, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the one thing that I always tell people is like, yeah, if you want to ask me to help give you suggestions, and there's lots of players that have DM me about it, like literally the players that are doing good now or stuff like that, they have DM me about it, and I gave them my suggestions and it worked out. So I'm always trying to like give the picture, and sometimes I can understand like why they that's the starting price, because literally that's like their starting
yeah,
price is always going to be like it's going to be in their favor. It's like 6-4 in their favor, right? So you obviously
yeah.
want to try to be 6-4 in your favor, at least minimum 5.5. So if you can get the negotiations into 6-4 your favor, that's a huge win. But the even ground personally would be a 5.5 to 4.5 in your favor for sure.
Right, right. Because you want to make, the amount of time that you're putting in. It's not easy to put in the time to get good at this. And I guess we'll end off on this topic with if there are players, especially younger players, or even the guys that are just starting to pursue this
Yep.
dream of being a professional player. Like, what kind of advice do you have for them? Because it seems like the advice here is get on the content route and do something with that. But what I always say is, it ain't the grass isn't green on this side, bro. Like it ain't, you know.
It's not. I would say for people starting out now, you have to think about like what are teams like interested in right now. They're always interested in numbers. So when you look at these esports teams now, a lot of them are creating their own like content channel, or like kind of like it helps their social, it helps like the actual social channel a lot.
Yeah,
Like if you look at, let's say, like FlyQuest, they do a lot of stuff with their players, right? And that's because of their content team. So they're pushing really hard on content now because that's what really gets numbers. There's not many tournaments, and think of it as like, let's say you enter CEO Combo Breaker and you're sponsored by like FlyQuest or whatever, and you just had a bad day. Let's say you just had a bad day,
yeah,
you get smoked in pools like this, like
it
yeah,
happens.
like a random number 360 master player just smoked you and you didn't know, right? And now you're out the tournament or you never got on stream. Like to them, that's like a huge loss, right? They pay for the flight, hotel, give you salary, and they didn't get their name, like their little like, like fly, right? Their name on the stream one time. Not at all. So you have to do more now because that's kind of what people kind of gauge. The more numbers you have in terms of all socials, like you can just add them all together, the more appealing you will look to these investors, because most of the time they like these investors, they're old. They're not gonna know, oh yeah, I've been following his tournament run for years. Like I know what place he got in 2018, 2019, leading up to 2024. Like, no, they're
You're
not
right.
gonna have that information whatsoever. They're gonna look at like, okay, what's his current social numbers on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube in 2024 of February the 4th today, right? That's literally
Yes,
what they're gonna
yes.
look at, and that's it. They're not gonna look at your past results. They're not gonna look at like your last match that you had in the tournament environment. They don't care about any of that.
Right.
So in terms of that, like for new aspiring players, you have to really think, right? Think about like, I get it. It's hard like to spend your own money and everything like that, but I mean, we did it, right? You did it. You
Of
spent your own money
course,
during
of
Street Fighter
course.
4 era. I spent my own money to travel all these tournaments before Street Fighter 4 era. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you have to put your money as an investment to go to these events to actually get noticed. You can't just like play online and be like, yeah, I'm so good. Look at my rank. They're not gonna care about that. You have to actually use your own time, your own money, and to go out to these tournaments to try to perform as well as you would normally do, like when you're home. And then more people would like talk about you on socials and then kind of get your name out there. Like Frosty Frostings just happened, right? And like
Ramsey.
Punk did win Frosty Frostings against Duke Kevin, great grand finals. But the person that really stood out that bracket was Ramsey, the Zangief player.
Correct.
And
Mm-hmm.
he was from losers and he was cooking, and everybody was Zangief, right? When you think about Zangief, you only think about Snake Eyes. But now
Yeah.
Ramsey, like he had such a miraculous run. Now some people are talking about him, right, with what he just did. Even Brian F made
Mm-hmm.
a video about like, the Zangief was ruining the brackets at Frosty Frostings, right? So
Yeah.
he got recognition because of that. So you gotta really put yourself out there for the time and investment. And if you can, you know, make some cool content, have some cool conversations on Twitter. It's like you're doing this podcast, right? You're doing this podcast, having this new outlet for people to come watch in and grow your brand as well. And
Of
that's
course.
literally what you should be doing. It's like, I know you just want to play and become the best and let your actions speak louder type of thing with gameplay, and I understand that completely. But we are in this era where it's just so competitive with content that everyone's doing it, and it just looks more appealing from the content to grab somebody that can just, it's like a jack of all trades that could do content
Yeah.
plus play. That's like the perfect blend that anybody would want right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's, and I think a lot of what you said as well. something that you felt, something that I felt is you do this, you do the investment in yourself if you believe in yourself. That's my biggest thing that I've learned from this as well is if you don't believe in yourself, then why should anybody else believe in you?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do it. So if you got that, then you could sacrifice some of that to invest in yourself.
Hmm.
And speaking about investing, sponsorships, and money, recently you just announced on Twitter that you are having an online reality show, and the winner is going to get $10,000. We'll end it with this topic. I'm actually very curious about this.
Yeah.
For those of the people that don't know, can you go into a little bit of detail about this? Because when I saw that, and I'm like, oh, bro, I'm about to sign up, and then you put up and comers, and I was like, well, fuck that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
go ahead, give us some information on that, because I know that that is a huge opportunity for somebody to put their name on the map. You're literally providing an outlet for that.
Yeah, it's a show called Next Up. And yeah, I think it's I see like how many, how like we came from an era of all these online tournaments, um and because of the pandemic and everything. And I felt like
Hmm.
so many people have gotten better in fighting games these last few years because we didn't have to travel. We just stay home and grind and play online tournaments, right? Or just play online sessions and everything like that. So a lot of
Yeah,
people have gotten so much better in just across the field of every game possible, right? Street Fighter 6, Strive, Tekken, whatever, you name it. And it really
right.
does show. So now you have all these amazing players that make these top eights that I never even heard of when I'm commentating it or when I'm like watching the stream. And these are players that probably would love an opportunity to to be sponsored, to get flown out to offline events and try to do their best, right? But the problem is we are in a recession where a lot of people are either not being picked up, being dropped. Even tech companies are like laying off employees. So money's
Yeah,
tight for everybody, right? So I don't
yeah,
in my head I felt like I don't think we're gonna see a lot of players being picked up by like esports teams or whatever compared to like the boom of Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. So many people got picked up
yeah.
during Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5. It was insane. Uh
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
man, especially in Street Fighter
right.
5.
But in 6 though, I really don't think that's the case. Like so
Yeah.
I want
I mean, I won Street Fighter League and not a single DM,
right. It
so
sucks. And
that's
yeah, yeah, you guys killed it too, man. It was such a great stream to watch, like to watch the finals there. Um
yeah,
and it just sucks because it's like so many players uh have these like amazing skills and they want to get picked up, right? But now let's say you're an esports team and you're looking in to see, okay, who's available. They're not going to pick the up and comers. They're going to look for whoever is available that has a like a brand name, like a household name, right?
hmm,
In the whole scene. So it just kind of sucks because there's, like I said, there's just so many great players now, and not everyone's gonna get picked up. Not everyone's gonna be able to showcase their skills or have a chance to pursue this pro FGC career for a while. So that's why I want to do the show Next Up, because I want to give one person a chance. Get they win $10,000, they get 3 trips to like 3 NA events. So like let's say CEO, Evo, or First Attack, because we are in the era where like this is a new generation. Like I probably don't really care about playing competitively anymore. You mentioned
yeah.
that, yeah, some eventually your time is going to be up, right?
It's
And
very soon,
right, and
very
then
very
now
soon,
we have
actually.
like you, right? We have players like Punk and Do and Sonic Fox. They're getting older, so
Yeah,
so now we have to look forward to the next younger generation, right? So
yeah,
so that's kind of what it's really for, is to kind of showcase like, like I want to do something for the community that I've been part of since like for over 24 years. It's kind of crazy, right?
yeah.
I've been in the scene that most people has been born, but these kids, they're so good at fighting games now, right? They're so good at fighting games now, or understand how to play fighting games because of the resource they have online. I just want to just showcase of that. So that's kind of why I made the show Next Up, see how it does. And I mean, I don't think I'll make a profit from this. It's completely a loss on my end, but it's more of just
Hmm.
like I want to give back, right? And I don't expect any return from the winner. Like I don't expect them to like give me a percentage of their winnings or whatever. I
Hmm.
just want them to have fun. This is the FTC. This is the FGC. Do what you want, and try to perform
And
your best at these major tournaments, right?
yeah, and you're providing them, I think, with the confidence of, hey, you know what? Like, I just won some big money off of this tournament.
Yep.
I can invest myself into this, and sometimes you need a push to believe in yourself, whether that's a tournament win, like it was for me, or from somebody close to you believing in you, giving you that confidence. So this is just an amazing opportunity for those up and coming players, and I'm excited to see the show, man. I'm This is going to be super dope for the community, and I have no doubt that it's going to grow, and you will make some profit of it eventually.
I mean,
If
I
not
don't
on
care
the
about
first
I don't care
season.
about the profit. It's literally like I just like to
Well, no, I know
do
you don't. Yeah, I
I
know
just
you
like to
don't,
do some
because
cool stuff, like because that's just because now my obsession is doing like fighting game content and trying to get
oh
more
yeah.
people like involved in fighting games, or because I watch a lot of YouTube videos for research, like, and this is outside of FGC, like different even like people playing ping pong or people like doing
Okay.
like man on the street challenges with like silly stuff, and or like different podcasts. I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, it's entertaining, but I'm thinking of like, oh, how could this translate to FGC, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I get these like a lot of these different ideas when I do like kind of more IRL stuff instead of just like let's play stuff. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I've been focusing on a lot. And it's just been fun having these crazy ideas in my head and trying to perform them in real life.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's very easy for me to believe that you don't care about the profit of it, because, there's a lot of people in this community. I've met a lot of shady people within the community, and there aren't many people that are very genuine, and you are definitely one of the most genuine people that I have met. And you've always been good to me, man. You've always helped me out, and I'm grateful for that, because you made my experience that much better. From being in this community. So I want to thank you for being on the show, Justin. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got a busy, busy schedule, and this was really dope. This is just like another conversation
Yeah.
like we've had for years, but this time it was recorded, and this time it was for people to hear out
Yeah,
there.
for
So
sure.
if you guys haven't followed Justin, which I'm pretty sure most of you have, Justin, where can people find you on YouTube, Twitch, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, for YouTube, you can just type my name, Justin Wong, and you should see my channel pop up. And for Twitch and Twitter, just hit jwong with 3 Gs. You guys could find me there. But yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on. Like I said, it's a really fun podcast. I watched yours with Ryan Hart. It was really good. So I
Thank
hope
you.
to see more of it. It's been really fun, and yeah, I wish you good luck also in the Street Fighter League finals, right? Like
Thank
that's
you.
coming
Thank you,
up.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to talk to you before the Street Fighter League finals, because I have some like mechanical
yeah,
questions in
yeah.
Street
Of
Fighter.
course,
So
no
if you got
problem.
some time within the next couple of weeks. But all right, that's gonna do it for episode 3 of Talking with T. Thank you guys so much. God bless you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave any comments, and I will see you next time on Talking with T. Good night.